Hello, good morning. Welcome to your daily hope booster video. Today I am outside, as you can see. I'd like to talk about getting clear thinking. And for me, being in the sunshine, breathing fresh air is an automatic way to get me started on the path to clearer thinking. I feel like spring is never coming in Calgary. I know in lots of places it is arriving, but we are expecting more snow today. And so before it's here, I thought I'd take advantage of the beautiful sunshine and do this video outside. So I'd like to talk about, as I mentioned, clear thinking, which is related to the pathways thinking part of hope theory. So if you remember, hope theory is goals plus agency thinking plus pathways thinking, and the pathways thinking being our way power as opposed to the willpower, but the way power on how we're going to get where we want to get to. So I found an article on the HALT International Business School website written by a woman called Valerie Pierce, and she talks about 4 or 5 different ways to get clearer in our thinking, and a number of them really resonated with me, and that's what I wanted to share with you today. So the first one is to remember that focused follows desire. So think about how easy it is for you to achieve a goal when it matters to you, when you really have a desire for it. So when your kids want your attention and they're coloring on the wall, right? You know that's going to get your attention right away. They are absolutely focused on that goal. When you were going to university or college and what that looked like and how important it was to you and how you did everything possible to achieve that goal, find the funding, bring your high school grades up, figure out a way to get into residence, whatever that looked like, it was really important probably, and you worked really hard towards that goal. How about when you were trying to court your significant other? Was there parts of that goal that were hard to overcome, but you did because you were passionate about it, you were focused on it? Probably. When we talk about goals, they don't have to be these big, bold things. You accomplish and work towards goals all the time, like your child does when they're trying to get your attention and when you're trying to court your spouse. These are also goals. I think so often we get caught up that goals have to be these big, hairy, audacious things that are big and bold and far in advance, but really, goals are everyday life occurrences, things you're doing anyway. So also important to keep that in mind. So there are things that are outside of our control, or the goals that don't really matter to us, and those are the ones that are really hard to overcome, right? So if our desire is not for these things because we are stuck in a cycle of fear, or we know it'll push us outside our comfort zone, if it's too hard, there's going to be a million reasons, also known as excuses, if you watched the video from yesterday, a million reasons why we won't be able to accomplish those things. We won't be able to accomplish those things. Why? It will be too hard for us and we just won't do them. So figure out if what you're aiming for is something you actually want, and then have your focus follow that desire. Make sense? All right. One of the other things that will help us get clear on our thinking is to remember that it's impossible to work towards a moving goal. Let me change that. It's not impossible, but it's absolutely much harder to work towards a moving target. And right now we know that the target of when this global pandemic is going to end continues to move. We don't know when the end is. The world literally hasn't been through this before, and so we don't know when that end is, and so it's literally a moving target. And I know how hard that is for most of us to even comprehend, and the feelings of overwhelm and anxiety that raise because we don't know where that end is, that's a real thing, and that's totally okay. But you know what we can control? Maybe identifying how far out we can be more reasonably confident that we can achieve. So, for example, figure out a target that's more likely. So maybe you can control what a week out looks like, maybe a few days. Maybe you can only control what 5 o'clock might look like for you today, or what really worked for me in the height of the mental illness that we were dealing with in my family 3 years ago all I could focus on was, what does the next 10 minutes look like? That was the only certainty I had, is I could control what the next 10 minutes looked like. Even feeling like I had that little amount of control helped an unbelievable amount. I can't even tell you. So focus on what is possible for you, whether that's the next 10 minutes, 5 o'clock today, getting to the weekend. You know, if you can set some targets to get to those places, that will really help, because those targets are a bit more within your control and you can have some certainty around those kinds of time horizons. So give some thought to that as well. As we know, often our emotions will overcome our passion. So if you're focused on the pleasure of achievement related to a passion, you are absolutely more likely to accomplish whatever that looks like. So often our emotions will get in the way of a goal if it's not what we want. If our emotions are stuck in a cycle of fear, if the motivation for achieving that isn't actually what we want. So focus on using your passion and your drive to achieve that passion to overcome your emotion, to overcome that cycle of fear, to push yourself outside your comfort zone. Because typically passion will get achievement much quicker and much easier than emotion. And we know that we can control our emotion and we can control our action. I know it's hard, it's absolutely hard, and you have to focus on it and be intentional about it, but focusing on the passion will absolutely help to get you there. One of the other things that's really important, like we talked about yesterday, related to action, is maybe counterintuitively, you can use your negative thinking to make positive action. So they did an experiment with a number of people who have identified a goal that was impossible to achieve. They talked about how negative, how they couldn't do this thing, how it wasn't something that they could possibly achieve for all of these number of reasons. But they had them turn that thinking around into positive action. So here's something to try. Think about your greatest problem. Think of the thing you're struggling with the most today, whether that's getting your kid to not scream on your conference call, or getting yourself out of bed, or not watching the news. Whatever your greatest problem is right now, give some thought to that and think of all the reasons why you can't possibly overcome that challenge. Okay, and write those things down. These are all your why nots. These are why you can't do these things, why it's impossible, why you can't overcome this barrier, okay? So think about your greatest problem and all the things, all the reasons why not, okay? Now look at all of those reasons you wrote down, all the why nots, and flip the switch. Flip the switch to how to accomplish the why nots. So look at all the different ways you could possibly accomplish those things. It doesn't matter if they're good or bad. These are not, we're not judging these ideas. This is just a brainstorm. All the things you could possibly do, the how-tos to solve for the why nots, okay? I know that this brainstorming kind of activity can be really difficult for some people, especially if you have a structured thinking preference. It can be hard to just spew it all out. Conceptual thinkers, brainstorming is much easier. So if you need some help with this, okay, ask some people to help. Ask your spouse, ask your colleague at work, ask somebody who's been through this before, what their potential how-tos to solve for the why nots. Get them to help you, that's okay. And then assess the options and then pick one. Try it. Like we talked about yesterday, information and knowledge is only good if we can implement it and figure out what works for us. So after you've got your list of why nots and how-tos, do one. Try it. See what happens. And then if that one doesn't work, try again. Try the next one. Eventually, one of these things will work. And you can continue to build on that achievement by trying the next thing. Giving our brain something else to focus on will help to reduce the ambiguity. It will help to reduce the overwhelm. It'll help us to feel like we have some control over what's going on in the world. And we do. We have control over our actions. We have control over our thoughts. As hard as it is and as impossible as it seems, it is totally possible. The only difference between impossible and possible is the I am in front. That's you. The I am. Impossible to possible is only possible through you. So you can totally do this. Talk to you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.